The storm rolled in before sunrise, covering the empty highway in a pale, stubborn sheet of white. Elias Turner, 16 and already carrying the tired posture of someone twice his age, sat behind the cracked steering wheel of his mother's old car. The engine had died hours ago, leaving only silence, cold, and the weight of decisions he wasn't ready to make. Beside him, his little brother Noah, 13, slept curled in a thin blanket, his breath trembling in the freezing air. He looked young, too young to be out here, too young to be homeless, too young to understand why the world had turned its back on them so quickly. Elias watched him for a moment, feeling that familiar mix of protectiveness and fear, the kind that sits deep in your chest and refuses to leave. Ever since their mother passed, the Turner boys had been drifting from place to place, shelters, friends' couches, parking lots, each night more uncertain than the last. But last week had been the breaking point. Their uncle, the only adult left in the family, had slammed the door in their faces with a cold finality that still echoed in Elias's mind. "I can't take care of you. Figure it out." The kind of rejection that bruises you on the inside. Now sitting in that dead car in the crushing quiet of a Montana winter, Elias felt completely out of options. The cold gnawed at his bones, sharp and unforgiving. His hands shook, not just from the temperature, but from the crushing responsibility he'd never asked for. He whispered to himself, steadying his resolve, trying to be the strong one even when he felt fragile and overwhelmed. When Noah finally woke up, shivering and wide-eyed, Elias forced a reassuring smile. "We'll find someplace warm," he said, even though he didn't believe it yet. But then, out of nowhere, a memory flickered. Something small, distant, almost fragile. When he was 7, his mother once drove him down a back road where he'd seen a stone mansion hidden behind pine trees, abandoned but strangely mesmerizing. He remembered thinking it looked sad, like it had been waiting for someone. He didn't know if it was still there. He didn't know if it would help. But he knew one thing. Staying here meant freezing. "We gotta move," Elias said, putting a hand on Noah's shoulder. "There's a place. I think I remember it. We're gonna try." So the two brothers stepped out into the biting wind, snow crunching beneath their shoes, their silhouettes small against the endless white. They didn't have a map. They didn't have a plan. But they had each other, and sometimes in the ugliest winters, that's the only warmth you get. The snow kept falling as Elias and Noah trudged through the woods, their boots sinking into drifts that felt deeper with every step. The wind was sharp, almost personal, slicing against their cheeks. Noah's teeth chattered softly, the sound small but heartbreaking. Elias tightened his grip on his brother's sleeve, guiding him through the trees with a sense of urgent responsibility that felt too heavy for 16-year-old shoulders. "Are you sure this place is real?" Noah asked, voice unsteady. "Yeah," Elias answered, though doubt pressed against his ribs. "I remember the driveway, long and kind of creepy. Mom laughed because I said the house looked like a ghost." Noah huffed a tiny laugh, a tired one. "It probably still does." They pushed through a row of old pines, and suddenly there it was. The abandoned stone mansion, rising from the snow like a forgotten monument. Its tall windows were blackened with age, its roof weighed down by decades of storms. The place looked silent, lonely, and haunting, like it had been holding its breath for years. Noah whispered, "It looks cold." "Yeah," Elias replied softly, "but it won't be worse than the car." They circled around back, snow crunching underfoot. A metal service door sat half buried in ice. Elias wrapped his numb fingers around the rusted handle and pulled. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, click, the door gave way with a low groan, almost like the house was reluctantly waking up. Inside, the air was even colder than outside. Their breaths rose in pale clouds as they stepped across dusty tile. Pots hung from a wall, green with age. A single wooden chair lay on its side as if someone had left in a hurry decades ago. "This place is spooky," Noah muttered, using the flashlight on his phone. "Spooky's fine," Elias said. "Spooky doesn't kill you. Cold does." They explored slowly, room by room, discovering wallpaper peeling like old memories, floorboards creaking under the weight of years. But then Noah stopped, pointing toward a narrow staircase leading down. "Maybe the heat system's there. Isn't that how old houses work?" Elias stared at him, surprised. "Yeah, the boiler would be downstairs." For the first time since the car died, A flicker of genuine hope crossed Elias's chest. If they could get the boiler going, if the house still had working pipes, if the gas line wasn't broken, maybe this place could keep them alive. Come on, Elias said, his voice steadier now. Let's see what's waiting down there. Together, the brothers descended into the dark, their flashlight beam trembling across cold metal and forgotten shadows, not knowing that this basement would change everything. The basement smelled like damp concrete and old metal, the kind of scent that clings to abandoned places. Elias swept the flashlight across the room, revealing shelves covered in dust, pipes snaking along the walls, and in the center, a massive cast-iron boiler hunched like a sleeping animal. Noah stepped closer, his voice shaky but curious. Do you think it still works? I don't know, Elias admitted, feeling both intimidated and weirdly hopeful. But if anything in this house can save us, it's this thing. He approached the boiler carefully, running his hand along the cold surface. It felt lifeless, ancient, stubborn, as if it had given up years ago. But Elias remembered his dad, those quiet afternoons in the garage before everything fell apart, teaching him how boilers and furnaces worked, how heat traveled through pipes, how pilot lights needed patience. Check for a gas line, Elias said. Noah searched with the flashlight. Here! They followed the metal pipe across the floor until they found the shutoff valve outside, half buried under frozen snow. Elias knelt, fingers stiff and aching as he twisted it. Nothing happened at first. Then, a faint hiss, thin and timid, like the house was whispering back. Back inside, the boys crouched in front of the boiler. Elias found the pilot ignition, rubbed his cold hands together, and struck one of the matches he kept from the glove box. The flame flickered wildly in the drafty basement. Please, Elias murmured, voice tight with desperation and determination. Just give us something. He held the match to the pilot. For a breathless second, nothing. Then, thump! A small blue flame caught, trembling but alive. Noah gasped. It's working! It's actually working! The boiler thumped, metal expanding as if waking up from a long, sorrowful sleep. Pipes above them rattled softly. The brothers sprinted upstairs to the nearest radiator. Elias pressed his hand to the metal. Cold, still cold. Then slowly, miraculously, warmth began to bloom under his fingertips. A shaky laugh escaped him. Noah cheered, practically jumping. For the first time in weeks, Elias felt something warm inside his own chest, too. Hope that didn't feel imaginary. We did it, Noah whispered. No, Elias corrected gently, smiling for real this time. You found the stairs, we did it together. Upstairs, the house creaked. A long, low sound. Not angry, but almost grateful. As if it remembered how to live again. The brothers didn't know it yet, but this moment marked the beginning of everything that would follow. The mansion grew warmer each day, not just in temperature, but in spirit. As the boiler kept humming steadily, Elise and Noah swept floors, wiped windows, and cleared hallways that hadn't felt footsteps in decades. The house no longer seemed hostile. It felt tired but grateful, like it was slowly stretching awake. One afternoon, while rummaging through an upstairs closet, Noah found an old tin box tucked behind a stack of broken picture frames. Elias, look at this. Inside the box were bundles of letters tied together with faded blue ribbon. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting elegant and soft, written by someone who had once cared deeply for this house. Elias read a few lines aloud. The winter has been merciless, but this home still holds our laughter. Someday when life softens, I hope someone finds this place and feels the warmth we left behind. Noah listened, eyes wide and thoughtful. Do you think they were happy here? Sounds like they were, Elias said, gently returning the letters to the box. A strange sense of connection settled over him, as if the house had a soul and they were being trusted with it. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, a truck rumbled up the driveway. Elias's heart lurched. He motioned for Noah to stay behind him. The last thing they needed was trouble. A woman stepped out, older, with silver hair pinned back neatly in a green winter coat. She carried herself with a calm, almost nostalgic grace. Are you boys the ones who are staying here? She asked. Elias stiffened. We're just trying to keep warm. The woman smiled gently, not unkind. My name is Clara Bruft. My family owned this house a long time ago. The brothers exchanged anxious glances. Elias braced himself for anger, eviction, police, anything. but Clara simply looked around the house with soft, watery eyes. "I heard someone brought the place back to life," she whispered. "I had to see it for myself." Inside, she walked slowly through each room, fingertips brushing the banisters as if reading memories. When she saw the boiler running again, her expression broke into something tender and heartbreakingly proud. "This house hasn't been warm since I was 16, she said. "The same age you are now." Elias swallowed hard, unsure what to say. Clara turned to him with a warm, fragile smile. "It seems the house finally found people who needed it as much as it needed them." Her words settled in the air, full of meaning Elias didn't yet understand. But he soon would, because Clara hadn't come just to visit. She had come with a decision that would change everything. Clara Bruff stayed longer than the boys expected. She moved through the house with the gentle, nostalgic tenderness of someone touching old memories. Memories she never expected to feel again. Elias watched her carefully, unsure whether every step she took brought them closer to a goodbye. That night, she sat with the boys near the radiator, warming her hands around a chipped mug of tea Noah had made. For a while, no one spoke. The house hummed softly as if listening. "You boys remind me of me," Clara finally said, her voice warm yet fragile. 16 is too young to lose everything, too young to learn how cold the world can be." Elias stared into his mug, throat tight. Noah nudged closer to him. Clara reached into her coat and pulled out a folded packet of papers. Old, but neatly kept. "This house has been in my family since before the war," she said. "But after my parents passed, I was young and scared. We couldn't afford the repairs. We left, and I never had the courage to come back." Her eyes softened. "Until I heard someone had lit the boiler again." She placed the papers on the table between them. "I want you boys to have it," she said quietly. "The house, the land, everything." Elias froze. Noah's breath caught. "What?" Elias whispered. "You brought it back to life," Clara said. "You cared for it the way no one else has in decades. Homes don't belong to the people who abandon them. They belong to the people who love them enough to stay." The weight of her words sank slowly, deeply, like warmth seeping into frozen skin. Elias shook his head. "But we're just kids." "Kids who survived," Clara answered. "Kids who showed more heart, more grit, more compassion than most adults I know." Elias didn't realize he was crying until Noah squeezed his arm. The house creaked softly above them, almost like it was agreeing. Clara spent the next morning signing the last of the documents with a lawyer from town. She hugged both boys before she left, whispering, "Make this place shine again." And they did. Word spread quickly around the county. A teacher told a social worker. A grocery clerk told a mother with nowhere to sleep. Before long, knock after knock echoed through the long front hallway. A teenage boy who'd been sleeping in his truck. A young woman escaping an abusive home. A veteran whose trailer roof had collapsed. A pregnant girl who had no one to call family. Elias and Noah opened the door to all of them. They shared blankets, cooked canned soup on the old stove, and used the warmth of the house like a gift meant to be passed on. Every night, laughter mingled with the sound of radiators ticking. The house felt alive, full, grateful. They hung a hand-painted sign Noah made by the porch. "The warm house everyone deserves, a door that opens." One snowy evening, almost a full year after their first night there, Elias stood outside, watching the windows glow golden from within. The air carried the comforting smell of cinnamon and wood polish. Behind him, he heard voices, real, joyful, connected, drifting through the night. "Hey," Noah said, stepping outside beside him. "Pretty crazy, huh?" "Yeah," Elias whispered. "Think it'll always be like this?" Noah shrugged, then smiled. "If we keep the heat going and keep letting people in, maybe." Elias looked at the house, their house, and felt a deep, steady gratitude settle inside him. For the first time in his life, tomorrow didn't terrify him. Tomorrow felt like something worth walking toward. As snowflakes drifted down, soft and peaceful, he whispered, "We made it home." The house creaked gently, as if answering back. If you found a place that saved your life, would you choose to keep it for yourself or open its doors to others who need it just as much? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay with us for more emotional, life-changing stories.